Hey, my name is Jack, and with another build for the last Epoch 1.2 patch, Tombs of the Erased. This time with a dot-based build, a Warlock, based on Bleed, using Ward. Let's go over the skills and tell me exactly to you how this works. This one's a bit more difficult. So, we'll be using Rip Blood as our main ability, which will be triggering through Chaos Bolt. But the tree is pretty much straightforward. We go for cast speed, then of course the bleed chance over here, and we actually want to gain as much of these like mana and health nodes as possible. The reason for that is that all of these other nodes do hit damage, and the spell damage of Red Blood, we don't care about that at all. Bleed does not scale with spell damage. It scales with increased damage over time, and then the attribute which your dot is based on, in this case, increased physical damage, and then modifiers which apply to bleed, like bleed duration is good, and physical penetration with bleed and stuff like that. So we will take all of these health nodes, so we will create blood ores, which will give us health back. And this node is really nice, which gives us health restored per intelligence. We achieve 475%, which puts us at like 120 health gain per health orb. We gain 9 mana per health orb. When we don't have mana, it costs 0 to cast Rip Blood, so we can keep casting technically. More cast speed, less mana cost, more cast speed, and the bleed chance. Then we go over Chaos Bolt first. We'll be using Chaos Bolt, and that's because we can trigger Rip Blood with Chaos Bolt. As you can see right here, Rip Blood chance per 2 in intelligence. We have a lot of intelligence, like over 80, right? So we will always be triggering Rip Blood on casting Chaos Bolts. Chaos Bolts then has damage chance, which turns into physical with Sanguine Reverie. So damage turns to bleach chance, necrotic turns to physical. As well as a bone curse at target location. So Chaos Bolt hits against cursed enemies, cast bone curse at their location, right? So when we hit an enemy that is cursed with bone curse, it will once again cast bone curse. This is really, really good. I'll explain when we go over bone curse. And then we take these two for travel nodes. We go over here. Health gain against cursed enemies, so gain some health and mana back when you hit a cursed enemy. So Chaos Bolt has 2 damage types. It's fire and necrotic. So the necrotic turns into physical. And we go over here and we turn the fire portion into cold, which is like some additional basically support to hit like chill and maybe get some freezes in, and frostbite chance to slow the enemies down when they get hit by Chaos Bolt. So that way we will always be triggering Rip Blood through Chaos Bolt. Let's go over Bone Curse. So we use Bone Curse, and which in itself gives you physical damage, but that's not what we care about. What we care about is bleed. So we will go over here and we get Crimson Enlightenment. When Bone Curse times out, you cast Rip Blood on that enemy, a spell dealing physical damage. So every time Bone Curse times out, we cast Rip Blood. Then we will go over here, we will travel over here and use Illusion of Pain. Bone Curse always crits and it does 150% more damage. But most importantly, Bone Curse has a maximum hit of 1. Now, we will also be using Cursed Ground. So we have 5 seconds, which gets reduced by 50%, so 2.5 seconds of Cursed Ground. So as you can see, there's like a feedback loop going on here, right? So when Bone Curse cast times out, we will cast Rip Blood, which will trigger the Illusion of Pain max, right? So we cast it on an enemy that has the curse on it. It triggers, it casts Rip Blood, and then because of Cursed Ground, the Bone Curse gets reapplied, thus casting Rip Blood again. So this pretty much gives us a ton of bleed stacks, like insane amounts. I can't even tell how many because it's based on cast speed, right? And also really nice, we will go over here and get a 12% kill threshold. So anything that's 12% life or below gets instantly killed when casting Bone Curse on it. So, and then for the last two abilities, we'll be using Aura of Decay, which we will go over here, get the bleed chance, and most importantly, get Armor Bane. This way, the poison that Aura of Decay would normally apply now applies Armor Shred. So, since we're doing Bleeder's physical damage, this is really nice. And we gain over here, we get a Mana Blight, which increases the ailment frequency that Aura of Decay applies. Together with Rod Weaver, we had like 54%. And Plague Rat is really nice, increased area of decay, which is based on your character, so 60% more area. And also, allies within range are healed by Aura of Decay. Allies include you, so we heal 8% of our life while Aura of Decay is on, basically. And lastly, for movement and some other stuff, we'll be getting Transplant. It gives us haste and frenzy over here. When we cast it, we'll be going for Rain of Blood, which is not important. We want to travel over here and get Hemophilia, which gives us 400% bleed chance, and Doombringer, which gives us Bone Curse on arrival. And Dance of Blood lets us cast additional Rip Bloods on our basically departing. So that is really nice. Then we will go over here, get the cooldown and cast speed, get anemia for the health cost, which will reduce basically, which we will reduce to 0, so 20 plus 24, minus 24, we return to 0. Bone armor, really nice ability. What this does, it gives us 8% less damage taken, and the last point goes into bone armor duration, so we have it for 5 seconds. That is how this works. Now, this build isn't calculated correctly by last Epoch tools. This number right here for spell hit is not correct. I calculated the correct number. The correct bleed stack chance, basically chance to bleed on hit, for this build is 741%. And now if we go over the skills and we look at how this works, right? So we arrive, we cast Rip Blood, which already gives us 7 stacks on a target plus 4 stacks, and then the additional 1 stack. So we are already at like 7 plus 5 stacks. The 12 and then Aura of Decay might apply like 1 additional stack, 13. Then Bone Curse gets immediately cast on the enemy, which might add another stack, so let's say 14. We cast Chaos Bolt, which has 4 projectiles, and Chaos Bolt has like 600% chance to bleed on hit, so we get 6 bleed stacks for each projectile, so 4 times 6, 12, 18, 24 bleed stacks. You see where this is going. We cast Rip Blood instantly, which gains us another 7 bleed stacks per Chaos Bolt that hits. So that is like 7 times 4, 7, 14, and so forth, right? You see where this is going. In the end, we come out at 94 bleed stacks in a singular instance of using basically all of like 1 Bone Curse, Shatter, and Rip Blood and Chaos Bolt. So we apply a lot of these bleed stacks. Let's look at the passive tree. We are a Warlock. Over here, you don't need to take this, but from the Acolyte base class, I think it is really nice to take these ward gained or nearby death. This is really good since we are ward built and we stack intelligence. We want to get this as much as possible. We have a high amount of ward retention. So we get Forbidden Knowledge for the intelligence, necrotic resistance, Money of Mortality, ward gained or nearby death, which includes enemies, unnatural preservation maximum for ward retention and the resistances, and then 2 travel points, go over here and get increased bleed duration. We get in the Warlock tree and we pretty much go for Spiteful Decay, increased damage of time, Cauldron of Blood, which gives us bleed chance, and this most importantly gives us Bleed Overload. And what Bleed Overload does, it gives you 15% more damage done with damage over time. Right? And then we get Crimson Favors, which casts Rib Blood additionally while we have Bleed Overload. So we hit more bleed stacks. See this way, hovering armor for travel node, we go to dark protections. Again, we're ward build, so ward per second is really good. Less damage taken per curse on target. I mean, it's not that much, right? 2%. We're not stacking curses. We have 2 curses, so it's going to be 4%. Imperishable, ward decay threshold for 2% necro rest. This one is really important. We are scaling a lot of ward with the helmet, unique helmet. So we're using this as well. And we get Ward of Malevolence, 5 nodes for the ward gained on kill and ward decay threshold. Then all the way back here, we gain Vessel of Chaos, increased damage over time, or more damage over time per overload. We have 1, so it's 3%. Accursed Seer is quite nice for the increased cast speed, and most importantly, when you fall to low health, you get a cleanse, which gives you ward per curse cleanse on you, and it cleanses all curses on you as well. Fleeting Crown, this one is nice. We get haste chance on kill, so a lot of haste, and haste has 50% increased effect, so nice movement speed buff. We're also going in the Lich tree to get Aura of Decay. There's also some nodes here which are good. The Intelligence, increased mana regen of nodes, of course. Bleed chance as always, and Desolation for increased damage over time, maxed out. That is a good damage increase. That is the passives. So let's go over the equipment. As I said, we're using Bone Clamor Babute. This item is on pretty much every ward build. And the reason for that is 1 watt per second per 3% uncapped necrotic resistance. We have like 300%. So we get a ton of ward regen right here. Like this helmet adds like 100 watt per second, which is a high amount. And then for the prefixes, go for the increased bleed duration or the physical penetration. If you can get the 1 in 50 for roll for this helmet, why not both, right? Of the Swine we will be using with a 1-4 chance to gain legendary potential. What this does, our Bone Curse will apply with Inflict Decrepify, which is a curse that deals 200 physical damage over 10 seconds with added damage applying at 100% effectiveness, and we gain 1% more damage per 5 of your health missing, which is not the important one. The more important one is it also causes the target to take 50% more damage from damage over time, right? Which is a lot. So we'll have to take this. Other than that, it gives ward per second for each curse affecting you. So if you're affected by a curse, like you straight up gain like plus 100 ward per second with the ward retention we have. That's of course just very good. Increased physical damage. This scales vitality, health, or resistance, always nice. All attributes, can't say no to that. So overall, pretty good. Amulet. The weapon we'll be using is a scepter. Specifically, there is no really good like base for a like bleed caster under the wands and scepters. Like there's none that is focused, like a base that is focused for bleed. So this is the best you got, and the only thing we care about here in the implicit is increased damage over time. The other ones are for the like scepter and wand and stuff are just not nearly as good. You could take like a one-handed axe and get the increased like chance to bleed, but I think the increased damage over time is straight up better, and you get like the caster modifiers on scepters too, right? So increased damage over time, D7. The cast speed is really nice to cast Rip Blood faster and Chaos Bolts. And then the suffixes don't really matter, honestly. Like chance to chill on hit since we already have chill from Chaos Bolts, and slow to like slow the enemies even more is kind of nice while they dot down. Necropolis Plate, ward decay threshold, ward gain on kill. That's pretty good for build. We're a ward build. Then prefix, chance to bleed on hit. The chest gives one of the biggest chance to bleed on hit, so take that. And physical penetration with bleed T7, very important to get that. A lot of damage increase here. Armor and reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes, and then 1 elemental resistance to fix or resistances a little bit. Doesn't need to be T5, can also be T4. We'll be using an offhand catalyst for the ward per second, and then the ward retention and nice intelligence it gives. So 3 modifiers we really like. Increased damage over time, cast speed, and then fixed resistances, very straightforward. Then we'll be using 2 iron rings for the necrotic resistance because of bone clamor, right? So we've been getting a lot of implicit necrotic resistance from this, and some ward decay thresholds, which we feel with more intelligence, increased damage over time. Then the suffixes, you fix resistances. Same over here. We'll be using the unique Strand of Souls. This is a unique belt that is heavily on ward. Most importantly, it gives a lot of ward retention and gives mana spend gained as ward. And we also gain ward on using a potion. I recommend getting at least the 1 legendary potential and get ward gained on potion use, or more importantly, 100% chance the class ends all ailments on potion use. So we have an ailment cleanse this way from using a potion. Other than that, the ward gain on kill stacks really nicely together. The ones we get from the passive tree and the other stuff, and some ward per second is nice as well, of course. We'll be using internal gloss for the armor mitigation and place the damage over time. We do have some armor. We reached 38% armor mitigation, which is really nice. So get the T5 armor mitigation, applies damage over time roll. T7 increase damage over time, and then reduce bonus damage from critical strike. And the suffix can be either you fix a resistance or you chance to apply shred armor and hit. Or maybe, yeah, that's it. We'll be using the boots Blood of the Exile. These boots have a 1 in 5 chance to gain legendary potential, so really nice. Not that bad to get at all. Most importantly, these gives increased bleed duration and 30 to 40% more physical ailment damage to moving enemies. And since enemies pretty much always try to move towards you when fighting, like that is like a straight up huge damage increase, right? 1 in 5 legendary potential, you get the reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes. You can pretty much reach 100%. Does each one of these need above average 1% more, and you reach 100% on these rolls, and some armor. So relic, we'll be using Homunculus Blood. It gives chance to bleed on hit. That is why we're using it. The specific relic, of course, very nice. As much bleed chance as possible. Increase damage over time, intelligence, elemental resistance fix, and chance to implement frailty. The last suffix doesn't really matter. Like, you don't have a lot of options. Over here you can fix resistances, but that's about it, honestly, besides health. And since we are ward build, we don't really care about health anyway that much. That is the equipment. Let's go over the idols. We'll be using these 4x1s, which gives chance to bleed on hit, and the suffix gives chance to apply bleed on hit with physical spell skills, which Rip Blood is. For some reason, the calculator doesn't see these in the calculations with some other stuff. This is why this is incorrect. These give 22% to 60%, so you have a wide range of rolling something very good. And then the new enchanted idols always go for increased damage over time with endurance and ward decay threshold, ward per second. That is what these two give. These 1x3s are almost the same. Instead, in the prefix, we had increased damage over time. Instead, then you have a 1x3, which is ward per second, ward retention and health for the minor one, and a Humble Weaver idol with chance to apply bleed and summon necrotic resistance to get even more ward retention. Those are the idols. Blessings. Timeline, Black Sun, ward gain on kill, ward decay threshold, pretty much the best you can get here. We don't really do spell damage, we don't care about health. We don't have any of this other stuff that we could possibly use. We don't crit, like don't ignite, like we don't have void resistance need, like any, so what gain on kill and what decay threshold is the best. Timeline, Reign of Dragons, obviously we're gonna go for chance to apply bleed on hit for big damage increase. We can pretty much, if you're lucky, try to get as close to 100% as possible. Like, you could maybe do increased physical damage, but I think applying one more stack is just honestly way better than increased physical damage, considering how much increased damage over time we have. Spirits of Fire timeline, armor, there's nothing other here that really matters. All of the other stuff is pretty useless. Age of Winter, of course, we're gonna go for a chance to apply Shred on physical resistance on hit. Try to get as close to 50% as possible. This is a nice damage increase. All of the other stuff doesn't really matter. Maybe increased armor, but the physical shred is of course one of the few sources of this, and it helps us a lot with some reduction of the physical resistance of monsters. And ending the storm timeline, ward per second, there's nothing. You could gain the ward decay threshold maybe. We never want to be mostly hit, so I don't think this one's really that good. The chance to gain 30 ward when hit. All the other stuff is like cold or lightning flavored, and we don't need that. Those are the blessings. So as you can see, most of the EHP comes from our ward. We'll be gaining a lot of ward on kill. We already have like a nice pad of ward, like based on a ward decay threshold. If you roll really good, you can get like 700 like base ward decay threshold, and then because of a high ward retention, you would probably like double or triple that just from your region without even killing enemies. So straight up, you will always have like at least 1000 ward, like just normally. And then when you kill enemies, we have all of these like ward gained on kill, we'll probably end up at like 4000, 5000, maybe even higher, depends on how you rolled with your ward retention, right? That is the main EHP of this build. And we do have some armor, as I said. Always try to get good rolls on the armor. The armor mitigation is always nice to have. Other than that, we don't really care about health because we are a broad build, but 1330 for a caster is like not super bad at all. I don't think this build has any mana problems because the only thing we'll be mainly casting is Rib Blood, and we can cast it even when we're out of mana, and we will gain so many of these blood orbs that it doesn't really matter, right? We gain 9 mana back and we pay like 3, right? Actually, we pay 1 because minus 2 mana cost. So we pay 1 for this, and then Chaos Bolt is 10, and so we pretty much gain all of the mana we use back. This build will never have mana problems like at all. Yeah, good amount of bleed. So we have 110% more bleed duration. So our bleed stacks last twice as long. As I said, 94 bleed stacks in like pretty much one instance of using like Bone Curse and Transplant and Chaos Bolt. That is a shit ton, honestly. That is my look at like a blood mage that Pathvector 2 has been desperately trying to achieve but doesn't know how to do at all. I always wanted to play a physical caster and with dot based on a like bleed dot, and last Epoch does this really nicely as well. And that's the end of the video. If you like, leave a like, leave a subscribe. See you around.